Hello and welcome back to the second video of the day. This is the American Fan Football channel where I am the aforementioned American and we talk about everything in the Premier League, Champions League, and the beautiful game in general. So today, Garett Southgate, the manager of England, just released his squad and his roster for the upcoming England games, and I thought I wanted to kind of take a look. There was some controversial people that were included in the squad, and definitely some controversial people that were left out of the squad. So I think I just kind of wanted to take a look and see what we kind of give my opinions on the squad in general. So I think how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to go from back to front. So we'll go with goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, then forwards. So starting off with the goalkeepers, this is pretty standard. Jordan Pickford was injured, so there's no surprise that he's left out of the squad. And in his absence, Dean Henderson from Nottingham Forest, I believe he's on loan from Manchester United, makes the squad. That's not, too controversial. He's a young goalkeeper, so it's not really any problem to give him some experience with the first team squad. Nick Pope has been playing really well for Newcastle this season after getting relegated last season with Burnley. So I think his inclusion is more than justified. And then as well, Aaron Ramsdale has been a very decent goalkeeper for Arsenal last season and especially this season. So his place is more than welcome. And if I had to pick one of these goalkeepers to start, I would probably choose Nick Pope. Yeah, okay. So now let's get on to the defenders. Here's where it gets a little more, I think, controversial. So I'm going to just read out what they have, and you can follow along on the screen. So we have Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ben Chilwell, Connor Cody, Eric Dyer, Mark Gurhey, Reece James, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kyle Tomori, Kieran Trippier, and Kyle Walker. So let's go through that one by one. Trent, yeah, he's been not playing well for Liverpool. He's been defending pretty horribly, but if we play in a back three, which I think we will, I think he will have enough defensive cover where he can really influence the game attacking wise at wing back. So his inclusion is, he's one of England's best right backs. He has to be included. Now, Ben Chilwell, this one's a little interesting because he hasn't been playing that much for Chelsea. He played really well for 20 minutes when he scored and assisted for Tuchel's last win against West Ham. But England only have really two semi-formidable left backs, and I really feel like Ben Chilwell is better than Luke Shaw. Yeah, so I mean, even though he has been injured and, I think his inclusion is justified. Then we go to Connor Cody. Doesn't surprise me. He's been a good defender for Wolves, and now I think he's been pretty decent for Everton. So he's been a semi-regular feature of the England squad, so it's fine. A little controversial, Eric Dyer, after a little bit of a renaissance under Antonio Conte, has made it back into the England team. And I'm not really mad at this. I actually think Eric Dyer would be really good in the middle of a back three, kind of similar for how he plays for Antonio Conte. And I think it's smart to pick players from teams that play in a back three if you're going to play a back three yourself. So I honestly, even though it's a little controversial, I don't think Eric Dyer's inclusion is too, out of there. Then Mark Gurhey, from Crystal Palace, the former Chelsea youth product. What can I say? He's definitely been playing well recently, and I think his position is really justified, and I think it's one that Southgate has been getting a lot of stick for leaving out of the squad, so I'm really glad to see his inclusion. And then we go to Reece James. He's England's best right back, most well-rounded right back. He can attack, he can defend, he can score, he can assist. Yeah, enough with Reece James. Obviously, he's in the team. Harry Maguire, maybe the most controversial pick. you either want him to do well or you kind of absolutely hate him. Harry Maguire is a lump of a center back. He is probably not good enough to play for England or Manchester United, but yet, once again, he has been picked for the team. And I understand, but I also don't understand. I understand that he brings something that most of the other England center backs don't, and that is just being a big lump and kind of just being able to win defensive headers and yeah, kind of just being a big physical presence to win the aerial duels. And in the middle of a back three, that could be something that's very effective. But Harry Maguire is slow, not good on the ball, gets caught out for pace all the time. We couldn't play a high line with Harry Maguire even if we wanted to. So I really, even though he's included in the squad, I hope for England's sake that he's not really justified or like starting too much in this England team. Otherwise, there might be problems. Okay, Luke Shaw, yeah, makes sense. Probably either to compete with Chilwell or to start over him. He's just played a lot more football than Chilwell, so he kind of has to be in the squad. John Stones is probably England's best center back, so I don't have any problem with him being in the squad. Fikayo Tomori, someone who has been called by fans to be in the squad forever, and I'm really glad that he's finally included. And his work with AC Milan, he is the champion of Italy right now, and that is something that shouldn't be frowned upon. And he went out to Italy and has been pretty successful, and I think his inclusion has been more than justified in his performances for AC Milan. Then we go to Kieran Trippier. Definitely a good right back. I don't know if we need a fourth right back. He's probably at the bottom of my list for right backs, but I know Gareth Southgate really likes him. I also know he has a tendency to play him at left back, so as a third rotational left back option, I think that is also a fine inclusion. And Kyle Walker, definitely coming to the end of his England career, but I still think his inclusion is justified, being able to play at the right center back or at right wing back. I think that's important. All right, now let's move on to the midfield. The inclusions are Jude Bellingham, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, Jude, and James Ward-Prowse. This is an interesting midfield lineup because the one name that's kind of obvious from last season is Conor Gallagher is not in, but he hasn't been playing that well for Chelsea. But then again, a lot of these players haven't been playing that well for their club teams, and they're still included. So I think Conor Gallagher maybe should have been included, maybe instead of Calvin Phillips. I personally don't really rate Calvin Phillips. I think he kind of just made a decision to move to Manchester City for money, and now he will sit on the bench for the rest of his career and not really get ahead of Rodri. I don't see him starting in any important game for City, and he is pretty much just a bench warmer. So, that's not the best, but there's not that many options that England have in midfield, so I kind of understand. Okay, and James Ward-Prowse, a little controversial, but once again, I feel like England are a little light on like players who can either play as eights or like sixes. So I think his inclusion is pretty fair. All right, and now for the forwards, we have Tammy Abraham, Jared Bowen, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, and Raheem Sterling. Oh, sorry, and one last one, Ivan Toney, the new boy. So let's just get the easy ones out of the way. Phil Foden, Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling have to be in this England team. They have been too good for England, and they're just too good for their club teams to not be included in the squad. Bukayo Saka, I think, is not as good as the three players I just mentioned, but is definitely also proving this season that he is a really, really dangerous winger and therefore should be in this team. Now, the three controversial ones, we have Tammy Abraham, Jared Bowen, and Ivan Toney. So, Tammy Abraham, I don't think anyone's going to be that mad at. I think he's been doing really well for Roma, playing really well under Jose Mourinho. And yeah, I think he can be a good backup to Harry Kane in case Harry Kane gets injured or, can't play the full 90. I think Tammy Abraham to have on the bench is a very good option. Now, Jared Bowen and Ivan Toney are interesting because there's two players who directly misses out from their inclusion, and that is two players that Manchester United fans will be very angry at, and that is Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. Both of them missing out to Jared Bowen of West Ham and Ivan Toney for Brentford. And I think Gareth Southgate is kind of half right in this. I think that Ivan Toney does kind of deserve a place in this England team. You do always need a third, rotational striker option in case one of your strikers get injured. And I don't think there's any better striker that England have after Tammy Abraham and Harry Kane than Ivan Toney. So therefore, he should be included. Now, Jared Bowen, I'm not so convinced. He had a really good season for West Ham. Scored a dangerous amount of goals. I think it was over 20 goals for West Ham. And yeah, but he really hasn't looked that great this season. So I'm not too much of a fan of this inclusion. And I don't think he's been consistent enough for long enough to be included over a player like Marcus Rashford, who is having a very good season for Manchester United right now, scoring some important goals, especially to win at Arsenal and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of why I feel that Marcus Rashford should be in the squad instead of Jared Bowen. Yeah, and then the other player that I think I forgot to mention that missed out is Ben White. The center back for Arsenal, and I think he should probably be in the team instead of Harry Maguire. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans will be mad that he's not been included in the squad. But I do kind of get it, because I feel like Ben White is a similar type of player to, let's say, Fikayo Tomori and Mark Gurhey and Connor Cody, and they can all kind of interchange in that position. But I feel like Harry Maguire does offer something uniquely different with his physical attributes opposed to more of his technical ones. So that is why I understand, but I understand why Maguire is included, but I also understand why Arsenal fans think Ben White should be included. Yeah. So that's the video for today. We went through the England squad and kind of who I thought was fairly and unfairly placed in the team. This is the second video of the day, so if you could go back and maybe watch the first one, I would really appreciate that. We talked about why Manchester City will not win the Champions League, and we talked about the impact that Erling Haaland has had on their team. So please drop a like on the video and subscribe. I really appreciate it, as I'm trying to start out this channel and kind of build out a little bit of an audience from scratch. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.